Hey everybody. So we're starting to gear up nationwide. There's the Black Lives Matter Week of Action, and this is educators across the country, led by educators in Philadelphia and Seattle, and that inspired so many others to get involved and to draw attention to the continued systemic and institutional racism that exists in our country that disproportionately affects black and brown bodies. And bringing that into schools and having those conversations with students and letting our students know that they are valued and that they do matter, and starting to have those courageous conversations with colleagues and with families and with students and with the community about do we truly value Black Lives Matter, and can we even say that that's a position that our country has? And so, and then also just even more going further, digging into the racial injustices that are present in our schools, and making it valuable. I was very, very heartbroken to see there was a viral video of a young girl in Bellevue School that faced consistent bullying from both peers and staff, and the family ended up pulling her out of that school and transferring her to another school in Bellevue, and was unfortunately at that school also faced discriminatory behavior and racial bullying, and so they're now leaving our district. And I think that is something that just breaks my heart, and that we need to do better. Like, we have to do better. We can't have these stories, and a lot of it starts with like dealing with the implicit biases within ourselves, right? Like, I don't know the whole story, I haven't heard everything, but from the student's perspective and her family's perspective, their truth is that that she was profiled for stealing ice cream and was then searched. Her clothes were searched, which turned up no ice cream, and felt like she was humiliated in front of her peers by an adult staff member. And the implication is that she was singled out because of her race. And I think a lot of people are going to jump to be like, oh no, that's not the case. We're not racist. We're not, we're above that. That's not what we do. I would never look at somebody and just assume. And it's like, no, like you're missing the point that the implicit bias, those gut check reactions and responses are not part of your cognitive control. You're not saying, oh, that person is black, therefore they must be stealing. It's what do you automatically assume or suspect or go to or default to. And there may be other signs that you use to justify it, but we know across the board that racial bias is present and consistently shows up in the data of who gets disciplined, who gets arrested, who goes to jail, who gets convicted. And so we need to do a better job of dealing with our own implicit biases. A lot of times I feel like implicit bias makes people feel like they're off the hook for it. Well, like, no, like the implicit bias is there, but you still have a responsibility to dismantle that and to challenge it and to recognize when it comes up in your own life. So we got to get to work. We got to do better. So the upcoming Black Lives Matter Day of Action, I hope that those conversations take place. Educators for Justice is selling shirts, and so check them out on Facebook. If you're an educator in Bellevue School and you want to show your outward support, but don't just wear a shirt, right? Show up. Challenge the racial injustice, the racial status quo that's in our schools. Challenge yourself to grow in your understanding of your own racial awareness, and other people's narratives and other people's stories, and really push yourself so that you can start impacting your community and those around you. So it's a pretty big bummer to hear that about the young woman leaving our school district, but we have more work to do so that it never happens again. So I hope to work alongside of you in this efforts. We'll see you tomorrow.